After a long wait, a long summer, after we stewed on the Super Bowl loss, the redemption tour finally begins this Sunday. Week 1 of the NFL football season is finally here. Shane, it's been long. We've been trying to act like we're engaged in training camp, which we are. You know, nerds like yourself and myself enjoy position battles and talking about who's going to be like the backup nickel and stuff like that. You know, third or first world problems. But as far as the Eagles are concerned, they only have one goal in mind, and that is to return to the Super Bowl. What's going on, guys? Welcome to the first regular season edition of the EPA Podcast, brought to you by Bleeding Green Nation. I'm one of your hosts today, Victor Williams. Be sure to follow me on all social media platforms at the Philly Pod. Do the same for my other host here. You can find him on everything at Shane Haff NFL. Shane, we're in the swing of it. We survived the long offseason. I felt longer than others because of the Super Bowl loss, and you're sitting here like you're eager to get back, and we're wondering, like, once Hurts got paid and everything, and we're like, well, now it's just a waiting game. Training camp is still interesting, but it wasn't as interesting as years past because it was the whole like cliche of like, is what's Hurts going to do? This is make or break season. We know what the team is now. They brought back most of their starters. So now it's just, can they maintain that success? Can Hurts take another leap? Can the Eagles remain as the most dominant team in the NFC? How excited are you, man? Where are you as far as like week 1 hype? I know the Patriots aren't like the most exciting matchup in the world week 1, but NFL football is back.
Oh man, I can't wait. I can't wait to sit down Thursday night and watch Chiefs Lions, watch anything that's on Sunday.
That meaningful football.
Yeah, it's been a slog to get through the offseason, but I'm excited to be back. And you talked about position battles and watching those in training camp. Did you see the Eagles depth chart they put out yesterday?
I saw that there is like no starter at running back, right? I saw the
So the 3 positions that are a little bit up in the air: safety, running back, and linebacker 2. Yeah. They just like listed everyone on the team in the same slot. I like got that photo and I just blanked out the names and I just put a shrugging emoji on each of them. Like, yeah, I feel like we still don't know what's going on at some of these positions, but I'm interested. I mean, the Eagles know, but I'm interested to see who they trot out, how they use those guys.
Yeah, but we all know how Sirianni likes to be about competitive advantages. He and even Jonathan Gannon in Arizona, who we'll talk about later, echoes that same sentiment. Because Shane, I don't know if you saw, but Gannon. Now this week, you usually make your quarterbacks available to the media to answer questions, set expectations for the season, what have you. Gannon decided that he is not going to make his quarterbacks, whether it be Josh Dobbs or Clayton Tune. It's not like we're debating between like McNabb, Michael Vick. Like, you're debating between Dobbs and Clayton Tune. And you're not going to reveal your quarterbacks. You're not going to make your quarterbacks available to the media because you don't want to reveal to your opponent who the quarterback is going to be, as if it's going to make a difference. So Sirianni instilled that in his assistants. He's trying not to, I guess, show his hand as far as running back safety is concerned. Yesterday, when Sirianni was doing his media availability, he was asked about who's going to start opposite Reed Blankenship. He declined to answer as expected. So be interesting to see that. But yes, New England, the first opponent for the Philadelphia Eagles. How these pods will traditionally go, we'll talk about one side of the ball for the opponent against the Eagles D, and then the other side of the ball against the Eagles O, and dive into those matchups and expectations and stuff like that. But before we dive into the essential like week 1 like matchup, your expectations as a whole, Shane, as far as like Hurts' performance. I know you're not the biggest gambler, but Smitty's like receiving line is like 925, super low. He eclipsed that by 200 yards last year. Where do you expect the team, just from a season perspective, do you expect the team to regress at all, and where do you expect them to improve? A lot is made of the new coordinators between Brian Johnson. I forget if he's calling plays this year, or is it going to be Sirianni? I assume it's going to be Brian Johnson. We all assume Desai is going to be a more aggressive defensive coordinator than Jonathan Gannon. But are you expecting any type of like regression? I've heard NFL media kind of say like maybe a sophomore slump is in the cards for the Eagles. Where are you kind of at as far as the Eagles' expectations in 2023?
Yeah, I mean, if by regression we mean they won't win 14 games and have 70 sacks, then I expect a little bit of a regression. Yeah, you lose both coordinators, which we'll get into in a minute, but that impact is gonna be felt. You lose 5 defensive starters, that impact is also gonna be felt. And ironically, all the defensive starters you lost are right through the spine of your defense: defensive tackle, 2 linebackers, 2 safeties. So the spine of that defense could be a little susceptible this year. The Eagles also had crazy health. I tried to go look up the adjusted games lost, and the Football Outsiders website no longer exists apparently. But I'm pretty sure that I remember they were like first or second in adjusted games lost last year. Like they were remarkably healthy, 22 of 22 starters in the Super Bowl. I don't think you expect that. Now I think it's going to be a really good football team. They've got a nice schedule where it's, softer at the start of the year as you try to work out issues with new starters, with new play callers. I don't think the Eagles are just going to be running the ball the entire second half because they're up by 3 scores this season, and especially early. So I think it'll look a little sloppy early. It's like 9 of 11 starters on offense played 0 snaps in the preseason. So, but I do expect them to be a good football team. I've got them as the 1 seed in the NFC. I've got them edging out the Cowboys for the division. I think it's going to be close. I think they're both really good teams, but I do expect the Eagles to be a good team this year and have a shot to make another Super Bowl run.
Yeah, even if you take off like the Eagles shades, it's hard not to peg them as the top seed in the NFC. Like you can obviously make arguments for the 49ers. You never know what's going on with the Cowboys, who brought in Trey Lance, and now Dak is uncomfortable, and who knows what that dynamic is going to be. Now the likelihood of Trey Lance even being like remotely as good as Dak aren't very high, but it's still a tough, I guess, look for the organization to bring a guy like that in, especially when you have a more than serviceable backup in Cooper Rush. So you have that all going over there as well. But yeah, the Eagles, it's tough not to envision them going back to at least the NFC Championship game. I think those are definitely good expectations. You mentioned how Hurts essentially didn't have to do a whole lot in a lot of the second halves of these games, even some games getting pulled. The offense got pulled for half of the fourth quarter. Where do you peg the probability, the likelihood that Jalen Hurts can become the second passer in Eagles history to record 4,000 passing yards during a season? He almost hit it last year, and that's without playing or having to finish most of these games. They just ran the ball and wore out the clock. Do you think there's a good chance he can surpass 4,000 passing yards this year?
Yeah, what was his number that he got to last year? I can't
3,700. I was about to look it up as you started. I think he was at 37 around there.
Yeah, if he stays healthy, I think he can hit that. Like you said, he missed 2 games last year. They were milking big leads in the second half of games, so I think it's certainly possible. Obviously, you're relying on health there. You're relying on health from your top 2 receivers. So as long as that happens, I think it's very possible. And in fact, I'd say it's probable that he'll hit that 4,000 yards passing this year. So I'd take the over. If you set a line, I'd take the over 4,000.
Yeah, he had 37.01 last year. So I think there's a good chance he's going to be airing it out a bit more this year. Going to have to, especially when they get into those competitive games against, Buffalo, Kansas City, Seattle, those teams. I think those games are going to be close until the end. Hurts is probably going to have to finish out a lot of those games. So yeah, I think for a good shot at 4,000 yards. Last thing before we dive into the matchup, the Eagles named their captains, including 2 new ones in Devontae Smith and AJ Brown. Now we never entertained the narrative that there's AJ versus Smitty, or the fan bases are divided, or whatever the case is. And I've tried to set the precedent to fans. I like that. I would be very, very surprised if the Eagles did not pay Devontae Smith at the first chance that they could, which is this upcoming offseason. So your thoughts on AJ and Devontae both being named new captains for this team, and the likelihood that both of these guys remain with the Eagles for the foreseeable future. We never entertained the argument about Smitty versus I don't understand how this was even manufactured. But I think the Eagles made it loud and clear and sent a message by naming them both captains.
Yeah, I don't overstate these things, but there is a 100% chance that the Eagles will pay Devontae Smith.
Of course, yep.
And I will normally hedge and say, there's a 99% chance. There is no chance that Devontae Smith doesn't get a second contract with the Eagles. They knew what they were doing when they traded up and got him. They knew that he was good after his rookie year, and they went and got A.J. Brown and paid him anyways. They're going to keep that group together. And so, yeah, Devonta Smith, now, whether it would be wise to make it after this season, that's as soon as he's contract eligible, because wide receiver contracts are going crazy. And Howie generally does the prudent thing there. He usually extends early, sometimes too early, see Carson Wentz and some of those guys. But I would expect that contract to come this offseason.
Yeah, try and do it before Justin Jefferson gets paid. That'd be ideal. Before Jettis gets his record-setting deal and breaks the market entirely. So yeah, Devontae Smith, AJ Brown, both named captains. The Eagles named 9 of them. That's kind of a lot. No, I saw the list and I was like, damn, who isn't a captain? There's 9. There's 9 of them. Is that kind of high for the NFL? What's the average number around the league?
I have no idea, but that seems if 20% of your roster is a captain, that seems like too much to me. I'll tell you who's not a captain that should be. I would give
James
anything. No. I would give anything for this to happen. For the Eagles to sign Nick Foles to a 1-day contract and send him out to do the coin toss on Tom Brady Day against the Patriots. I would give anything.
Yeah, he needs to just look at him in the eye on Tom Brady and just have him show up. Him or Eli. I mean, for us, Nick Foles. But if Eli shows up too, that would be.
Yeah, sign them both to 1-day contracts.
Get them both in there at the middle of the field when Brady is there. Hysterical stuff. So yeah, speaking of the Patriots, Week 1 matchup where the Eagles, I believe, are 4-point. I have to look it up. I have to look what the spread is, but I believe they're 4-point favorites in this game. In this Week 1 matchup, a lot of people have it pegged as the Juju Bradbury. I don't want to say it's like a rematch of sorts because it's not like Juju's high profile enough to really be at the front of anything. But we all remember the call at the end of the Super Bowl, and we all remember the comments, especially on Valentine's Day, that Juju Smith-Schuster made regarding James Bradbury, a guy who owned the call and said, "Yeah, I had a hold." It's not like he made excuses. So that's in there. The Patriots added Zeke Elliott on offense. They also added tight end Mike Gesicki on offense. They brought in offensive coordinator Bill O'Brien, so they're hoping to get things out of Mac Jones. I was shocked that they let go of Bailey Zappi in addition to Malik Cunningham, so it's like Mac Jones or die at this point for the Patriots. But Belichick hasn't been the most supportive of Mac Jones, so a lot of pressure on Mac to see if he has a staying future in New England. So off the rip, Shane, you look at this offense, you look at the Eagles defense, you lose Hargrave, you bring in Jalen Carter. The secondary for the most part is intact, save 2 starting safeties and your linebackers. It looks like Zach Cunningham is going to be the starter alongside Kobe Dean. I would probably say Terrell Edmonds is going to start opposite Reed Blankenship, and Sidney Brown might unseat him by week 3 or 4, but they're going to want that safe guy in there to start the season. But when you take a look at this New England offense, what do you have circled that could create potential issues for Sean Desai in that defense?
Yeah, the biggest thing that jumps off the page for me is last year the Patriots used 11 personnel at a remarkably high rate. 79% of their snaps were in 11 personnel, which was the 3rd highest in the NFL. So the Eagles like to play a lot of nickel. This is a game you're going to play a lot of nickel. You're not going to have to worry about putting a 3rd linebacker on the field, I don't think. Now, if I was a team that could, play 12 personnel, I would try to force the Eagles into base defense. But I don't think the Patriots really have that up their sleeve. So I think you're going to see a lot of 11 personnel. They've got a new offensive coordinator, as you mentioned, in Bill O'Brien this year. Last year, they ranked near the bottom of the league in both RPOs and play action. I think you're going to see a lot more of that in this offense as they try to get Mac Jones back into his comfort zone of just distributing quickly from the pocket. So I think you're going to see a lot of that, which is something the Eagles should be really familiar with. It's what they tend to do on offense as well. Another reason I think you see that is their right tackle, Riley Reef, just got moved to IR, which means that either at right tackle, they're going to start Sidi Sow, a day 3 rookie who wasn't in my top 100, or they're going to start Calvin Anderson, who is a UDFA that played 3 years in Denver, but he's only got 71 career snaps at right tackle. And by the way, who rushes against the right tackle in the Eagles defense? Hassan Reddick, 20 sacks last season. So it could be a good day for Hassan Reddick. Obviously, there might be some conditioning things there with him having the injury. So maybe you see Nolan Smith get a sack off of that right edge too. But I think the Patriots, their game plan has to be not let the pass rush wreck you, especially going against the team that had the 2nd most sacks in NFL history last year, who brought everybody but Javon Hargrave back. And by the way, double dipped on the offense or defensive line in the 1st round. And you've got some guys banged up or missing from your line. So I think you're going to see a lot of RPOs. You're going to see a lot of the running game from the Patriots. They had Ramondre Stevenson already, who really good running back. They add Ezekiel Elliott. So they've got a good 1-2 punch on the ground. I think you'll see probably a run-heavy game and a lot of RPOs out of this Patriots offense.
Yeah, I was going to mention Ramondre Stevenson, who did rush for over 1,000 yards last year. He's their lead back. They have Ezekiel Elliott, who can come in and cooked or not, he'll give Ramondre Stevenson a breather. Maybe he'll get some goal line looks if they get that far as well. But yeah, you mentioned Riley Rafe, who got moved to the IR, and that's a big deal because he had a lot of starting experience. And he got hurt in a preseason game. Again, our mantra of the preseason should probably end, but the Patriots lose him. So the Eagles are going to be looking to get after it. Especially on the side that Hassan Reddick is there as well. You take a look at New England's receivers, and it's not a bad group. Juju Smith-Schuster, Devontae Parker, who's currently questionable, and you have Kendrick Bourne, and they have rookie Keyshawn Boutte, who I was interested in the draft. So they also brought in a former Eagle, Jalen Reagor. So the revenge the revenge game is not really, but the revenge game is on fold. Maybe if he's on the practice squad, they'll see if they call him up for return duties or whatever the situation is. But we mentioned the secondary: Darius Slay, James Bradbury. You're probably going to have Blankenship and Edmonds on the back end. How scared should we be of Juju? I'm sure that they'll hammer home the Juju and Bradbury thing. Devontae Parker was pretty good in Miami, looking to find his footing again in the league, and Kendrick Bourne is consistent, if not spectacular. What do you make of the receiver group in New England and your chances, I guess your projections of Mac Jones making them somewhat effective?
Yeah, I mean, it should be a distinct advantage for the Eagles secondary, in my opinion, against the receivers for the Patriots. I mean, the Eagles have I did position rankings, and I had both Slay and Bradbury in my top 12 cornerbacks. You got a duo of top 12 cornerbacks. Avonte Maddox is really good out of the slot when he's healthy, and he's healthy now. We'll see how long it lasts, but
somewhat.
The Patriots, they don't have a wide receiver one. I mean, Juju, he put up close to 1,000 yards last year. There's your participation award for playing with Patrick Mahomes. He had 153 yards the year before. So, I mean, Juju is a fine receiver. He's a good receiver too, but I'm not concerned about him torching the Eagles secondary. I really don't think, you could be concerned about the safeties because there's a lack of experience there, but I just think it's going to be such a quick passing game that I don't think they're really going to be testing the Eagles downfield a lot. I think if you do that, the pass rush is going to have a chance to wreck you. So I think it protects the safeties a little bit early on while the safeties kind of get their legs under them.
Yeah, if anything, the one speed guy I guess they had was Tyquan Thornton, who's currently on IR. He was the one guy that could take the top off and potentially beat you deep, and I think he's on IR. So that is one guy they're not going to have to worry about. So yeah, not a spectacular wide receiver group. Juju can get free over the middle. Devontae Parker is able to go up and get the ball, but Slay can usually hang with those guys, and Bradbury as well. And Kendrick Bourne is your solid WR3, but nothing really to write home there. I think as far as the defense is concerned, we're all going to be staring at Jalen Carter, of course, across the middle, and then you're going to have the rotation of Milton Williams as well as Fletcher Cox and all those guys. And then you look at your defensive ends. How do you? I guess what should we should probably set the proper expectation for Jalen Carter's first game, because we all know what he did on the first snap in preseason. What do you make of the Patriots offensive line? We already spoke about Rafe, but the rest of them, how effective is the Eagles defensive line going to be in week one? And more importantly, Jalen Carter, what kind of performance should we expect from him in his first NFL regular season game?
Yeah, so the Patriots have a veteran center in David Andrews, who's a solid player. At right guard, they have Mike Nwenu, who I love as an offensive guard prospect. I had him in my top 10 offensive guards. He's a really good player. He was banged up in training camp. He's a full go to play, but he dealt with some injuries during training camp. Overall, I think he'll be solid. And then they've got Cole Strange at left guard, who was their first round pick last year that I had.
God, it got made fun of, right? Everybody was like,
yeah, and he has been injured, and he's questionable right now for the game on Sunday. So they could potentially have, bad right tackle, banged up left guard. All that said, I think people need to pump the brakes on their Jalen Carter expectations. I think Jalen Carter is a great player. I'll find the stat here in a minute, but just rookie defensive tackles don't generally make this crazy impact, have these gaudy sack numbers and things that people want you to think they do. I went back and I dug up the number of sacks for every rookie defensive tackle taken in the last 10 years. What do you think the average sack total is for rookie defensive tackles taken in the first round in the last decade?
Like 2.5.
Yeah, 2.3. That's pretty good.
All right.
Jalen Carter had 6 total sacks in college. I mean,
across his entire collegiate career, 6 sacks?
Yeah.
Oh.
And you look at these guys, and granted, he's at Georgia where they just rotate these guys in and out. But you look at these guys, and let's talk guys that had over 4 sacks in their rookie season. You've got Ed Oliver with 5, Sheldon Rankins with 4, Deron Payne with 5, Aaron Donald with 9. Like, that's the list. And so I think he's going to be a good player. I think it's really likely we get to the end of the regular season and he's got like 4 sacks and we're all like, man, Jalen Carter was incredible this year. You just shouldn't be measuring it by his sack production. And I can't decide whether having Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, I can't decide if having these guys gives him a better chance to get sacks because he won't be the focal point, or a worse chance because he might go win his rep and Hassan Reddick just wins faster. So it could go either way. Sacks are largely like a luck thing. I'm really more interested in just his pressure rates and if he's able to hold up in the run game.
Yeah, the run game is what's important. The Eagles allowed 121.6 yards per game, which was good for 16th in the league, despite being dominant, elsewhere, and 4.64 yards per rush, which was 24th in the league over the course of last year. So not the greatest run defense last season. A lot of that had to do with Hargrave, which is why I try to relay to the people, like, Hargrave was a phenomenal like pass rusher, but like as far as the run game, he wasn't the greatest. So we're hoping Jalen Carter can at least be a little more steadfast in the run game, because as great as the Eagles were last season, they did get beat up on the ground a little bit, which led to them signing Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh. They try not to get ran over. And not for nothing, Zeke did have 12 rushing touchdowns last year. He might be cooked, but he still found a way to get into the end zone. And he combined with Ramondre Stevenson in his 1,000-yard rushing season last year could pose issues if they want to take pressure off of Mac Jones. But overall, Mac Jones is a statue back there. He doesn't rush a whole lot. He's not looking to leave the pocket. We expect to at least have him uncomfortable back there and have the Eagles pass rush try and generate errant throws and potentially some turnovers. Any last notes on the New England's offense versus the Eagles defense before we go to break and come back and talk about how we expect the Eagles offense to kind of shred this New England defense?
Yeah, just on your point about Javon Hargrave being bad against the run, I do think that's by design. He's bad against the run by design. Well, I think it was a design of the defense. He was designed to one gap and get penetration and go try to get the passer. And because you look at Javon Hargrave, I didn't understand what the Eagles were doing when they signed Javon Hargrave away from the Steelers a few years ago, because he was a nose tackle for Pittsburgh in their 3-4. And he was a good run defender. Like, you can go look back at his stats, his PFF grades, things like that. Hargrave was a good run defender in Pittsburgh. And so the fact he was a bad run defender here, I don't think he just lost that skill. I think it was schematically how the defense was structured to give up the run. And so that's something to keep an eye on too, how the Eagles use their defensive tackles and what the primary focus is, because it should certainly be on stopping the run in this game.
Yeah, I would certainly if I was Sean Desai, I'm like, if we're going to lose this game, it's going to be because Mac Jones threw 400 yards on us and we just couldn't stop it. I'd rather that happen than Ramondre Stevenson run for 150 yards and get pounded on the ground. I'd rather not lose, but make Mac Jones beat you rather than the ground. Trying to eliminate the run and have Mac Jones make decisions and see what happens there. We're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Eagles offense, Jalen Hurts, these receivers, these running backs, against this Patriots defense, who was fairly good last year. We're going to see what Nick Sirianni and Brian Johnson are going to attempt to cook up against that defense. Keep it locked right here to the EPA Podcast on Bleeding Green Nation.
We are back here on the EPA Podcast, previewing the Eagles offense against the Patriots defense.
Stout defense. I've been
stout defense. Obviously, Bill Belichick, one of the better defensive head coaches in the league. Perhaps nobody better in the league at constructing like a single game plan to take away what you do best. Now, I'm not sure what you try to take away from the Eagles, but Belichick's had all offseason to cook this up. So I want to start this section off, Victor, with a little game of guess that stat.
Oh,
so
man.
We're gonna put you on the spot here. So the Patriots had 54 sacks last year, which ranked third in the league. Obviously, the Eagles with 70 were in first. The Chiefs were second with 54. So the Patriots 55. So the Patriots at 54 sacks, third in the league. Where do you think they ranked in pass rush win rate?
I will say they were just outside the top 10. So like 11, 12.
They ranked 29th
in
pass rush win rate at 33%. So the question is how? How does a team that got 54 sacks rank 29th in pass rush win rate? Well, here's my theory. Matthew Judon led the league in sacks last year on scrambles. Josh Uche was tied for 5th in the league in sacks on scrambles. They are very good. Now, they have struggled against mobile quarterbacks in the past, but they are good at sacking these guys when they try to leave the pocket on scrambles. And so I do think that's something to watch this year. I mean, there were instances last year of Jalen Hurts leaving pockets that maybe he shouldn't have. And generally good things happen because he's such a good playmaker outside of structure. But that's one of the top things for me to watch this weekend. Obviously, you've got Jordan Mailata. You've got Lane Johnson. You're not like Lane Johnson, just book it. You're not going to give up a sack. Jordan Mailata was a little shaky last year in pass protection at times. But when Hurts starts to vacate the pocket, are they going to be able to contain him? They certainly had good luck last year at getting sacks on scrambles. So that's one of the key things for me to watch in this game.
When I think about Hurts and his ability to leave the pocket and teams that are supposedly good at containing that and containing scrambles, I think about the Packers game last year when Hurts had over 100 yards in the first quarter. And even if linebackers know it's coming, like Hurts is like the snap could happen and you could know Hurts is going to run, and it's like he's so athletic that even the most athletic linebackers can't keep up with it. So when you talk about scrambling QBs, like who are like the mid-tier scramblers, like guys who are mobile but aren't really runners? Like who are those guys? Those guys are like Russell Wilson. He's not like a runner, but he can scramble, right? Aaron Rodgers, I guess you could consider a scrambler in that essence. Like those kind of guys you can contain. But guys like Justin Fields, guys like Jalen Hurts, guys like Lamar Jackson, guys like who I assume Anthony Richardson will become, those guys I feel like are out of the equation as far as containing scrambling QBs because they just outrun you. And I feel like that's going to be the case here with with Jalen Hurts in this offense. Now, the thing we will watch in this game is, Sirianni has said over and over again, we didn't pay Jalen Hurts to do less, but we do expect Jalen Hurts to run just a tad bit less because now he's worth $250 million. So now you don't want him taking these unnecessary hits. But I think we're going to tell a lot from open practice. He was running the ball quite a bit. I don't know if they were trying to put on a show for the fans or whatever, but when you watch it, you're like, man, maybe they weren't lying. Maybe he really is going to run 12 times a game. But you don't want to take away the weapon that makes Jalen Hurts who he is. And I don't expect the Patriots I expect them to attempt to contain him. I don't think they're going to be like sacking him in the backfield or outside the pocket or anything like that. But now there is more film out on Jalen Hurts. Now there's been whole off seasons on how to contain and combat against Jalen Hurts. So this first week is going to be a good test on how teams are going to try and render Jalen Hurts ineffective and see if maybe they can have him come down from this high a little bit. That was the 2022 season.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how they play it. One thing I would expect to see, so last year the Patriots only blitzed on 19% of their snaps, which was like it was like bottom 7 in the league. And they actually only rushed 3 on 14% of the snaps, which was a league leading total. This was not a pressure team. The Eagles struggled against the blitz last year, though. So I would expect the Patriots to come in a little more blitz heavy in this game. Like if I was Bill Belichick designing this game plan, I would blitz. I would try a lot of sim pressures, blitzing. I would probably put Christian Gonzalez, their first round pick at cornerback. He was number 7 on my big board. I'd probably put him on an island with Devonta Smith and try to keep a safety over the top of A.J. Brown just to try to take away that deep threat. So I'm looking at a Devonta Smith, Christian Gonzalez matchup as a big battle to watch too. Now, obviously, that's a welcome to the league rookie moment if you're trying to match
first game in the league
with such a good route runner as Devonta Smith. But that's something I would expect them to do. Last year, the Patriots played a lot of light boxes because they went a lot of too high shells. but then post snap, they would spin that coverage into single high safety. And last season, that single high safety was Devin McCourty. He retired this offseason after actually becoming the 4th defensive back in NFL history to have over 200 starts with one team. Longtime Patriot. He's gone. And so I don't know who's going to fill that role. I don't know if that will structurally change their defense, but that's certainly a tendency they put on film a lot last season.
You mentioned that the Eagles struggled against the blitz last year. Of those plays that opposing teams blitzed on, do you know offhand? You probably don't, because it would be such a minute stat. But do you know how many of those plays Jalen Hurts turned into positive yardage? Because I'm curious to see of those blitzes, how many did Jalen Hurts just render useless because he ran the ball for a first down?
I don't have a number on that.
I'd be curious, because I think it would be more prominent in my mind if I remembered more of these blitzes if he just got sacked. But he's so hard to bring down that blitzes almost aren't effective, or he makes quick decisions and he's able to find somebody over the middle. And I think that guys like DeAndre Swift are going to help that a lot more. And Swift, we're going to get our first look at what the Eagles have in mind as far as DeAndre Swift's role in this offense. We know in training camp he was being used all over, and there's been a lot has been made about who's going to get the most carries, who's going to be the lead back. There were some rumblings about Rashad Penny's not going to make this team. Never bought into that. Don't know why that was a thing. But we're going to get our first look at what this running back rotation is going to look like against a defense, Shane, we were talking about it briefly, that that was pretty good at stopping the run, and was 6th last year in yards allowed per game. How do you expect this running back rotation to shake out? Do you expect Swift to be utilized in the passing game from the rip? Are they going to wear people down with Rashad Penny? Is Rashad Penny really going to have a role, or is he just going to be the closer? How do you kind of see this shaking out in week 1? We don't know.
No idea.
We don't know. Yeah.
I honestly believe Sirianni when he says they're going to go with the hot hand in games. I don't think they have a lead back. Like, I think you're going to see
probably Gainwell.
I think you're going to see Gainwell, Penny, and Swift. I think it is. Let me think of how I want to say this, but I think it's largely unimportant. I think 2 of those 3 guys for sure are better running backs than Miles Sanders, and Miles Sanders had a great year last year. God. Like the tent poles of the offense is the downfield passing attack, the QB run game, and every aspect of it, the offensive line, every aspect of it makes life easy on the running back. Teams say running back doesn't matter. I really think running back doesn't matter for the Eagles. So I don't know how it's going to shake out. Obviously, it's nice if you got a guy that can make plays out of the backfield as a receiver, like we think DeAndre Swift can, but I don't know how it's going to shake out. I think they're all going to be good.
Yeah, I think so as well. I bring that up because we mentioned the defense, and if we had to make a chart, I guess I'm sure you've probably done this to this point, or will do so in the coming days, of position groups on who edges out who. You can maybe give the Patriots in one group. You could probably give it to the Patriots as far as linebacker goes. That's probably the one position group they have the edge here. And Dallas Goedert has been vocal about how he wants to have 1,000-yard season this year, so we're going to see how that matches up. And Shane, we didn't get to have our victory lap moment last week of Alberto finally coming to the Eagles. If you were listening to this last year, Shane and I might have been the only ones on the timeline and on the show screaming for Alberto, for the Eagles to make that trade at the deadline last year, because we knew that the tight end depth was light after Goddard goes down. They got by last year with Stahl and Calcaterra in those few games, but you don't want that to be the case if Goddard goes down for extended time. Alberto is a vertical threat, has some work to do as far as blocking goes. But Shane and I were capping for this dude, and Denver damn near cut him. And then the Eagles came in last second and made a deal for him. And Shane, nobody was celebrating harder than Shane and I. So not even really in this game, because we don't expect him to have a role, I guess, right off the bat, since he's still relatively new. But this kind of gets away from week 1 preview. But what do we expect from Alberto this year, if at all? I know we were fans and screaming for him last year. We were definitely excited when the trade happened. What kind of role do we envision for Alberto in 2023, if he can have one?
Yeah, I went back and found the tweet I made at the deadline about
I saw. I wrote it last year.
The first part of the tweet, and it was, it was a little tongue in cheek. I wasn't stating an opinion on Robert Quinn, but I said the Robert Quinn trade's fun and all, or nice and all, but can we go get Alberto? And I need to black that part out, because that was not me co-signing this Robert Quinn deal. But
it was shade. It was shade thrown Robert Quinn's way, who just got arrested, by the way. Oh, so that's that.
I didn't realize that.
Robert Quinn, yeah, he's in, yeah.
Okay. Well, Alberto, I'm really excited about it. I hope. I mean, there was effort issues on tape in Denver, which Denver was last year. God. So hopefully that's something that goes away in a strong locker room for a contending team, that sort of thing. But I don't know if he's going to be. I don't know if he's going to play, if he'll be inactive in week 1 because he is relatively new. But I would love to see him involved. Like, the Patriots only played base defense on 7% of their snaps last year. They love to get 5 and even 6 defensive backs on the field. So could the Eagles go 12 personnel heavy and force base defense from the Patriots? It would be interesting to see if they want to do that. It's not like you lose a lot taking Quez Watkins off the field. So as long as Alberto is like okay to block a little bit, I think it could be really interesting to see like a 12 personnel oriented attack against this team. But by the same token, I can see you going 11 personnel and put DeAndre Swift and Dallas Goedert in the slots and, go out into empty and spread them out too. Like, there's so many good matchups you can pick, but I think he gives you that flexibility to go 12 personnel heavy at times and gives you, you don't have to take that step down to Jack Stoll in terms of a receiving threat if Dallas Goedert were to miss a game or two. So I'm excited about the pick. I don't know what we'll see in week 1, but I'd love to see him on the field.
Yeah. I think we would both really like to like to see Alberto on the field. It was definitely one of the more exciting trades. Just because we were vindicated, it feels good to finally be vindicated for a guy that you've been clamoring for so long. As far as special teams go, I want to make this last point. I forgot the guy's name offhand, but they have that dynamic returner of the Patriots. What's his name? Is it Marcus Jones? I forget his name.
I think that's right.
He's a pretty dynamic guy. And we lost several aces. You lost McPherson for the year. You lost Sean Bradley for the year. You released Kyron Johnson, who had 265 special team snaps last year. Who is going to be playing on special teams this year, Shane? And is Marcus Jones going to be returning punts and kicks on us in this game?
Yeah, I mean, I hope not. But
I hope
never
not,
discount the Eagles' special teams' ability to screw up. I mean, Elliott should be putting kickoffs into the end zone. So if they run those, I should feel good about it. Hopefully the Eagles aren't punting the ball a lot.
Who's the punter? There is no active punter on the roster. If we have to elevate Arn Siposs, here's my thing with punter.
That's what they're going to do. They're going to elevate Siposs.
But this is the thing, though. Like, they've worked out all these guys. What's his name? Gillikin from the Penn State, the guy who got released from the Saints. He's probably the best of the group. I am really curious on what the Eagles are looking for from a punter, because they've worked out like 8 guys and they haven't signed any of them. Like, what if? And I'm sure 7 out of 8 of them are better than Arn Siposs. Like, what are they looking for from a punter? Like, if a guy can, I don't understand. I really.
Yeah, so I'll confess, I don't grind a lot of punter tape.
I grinded some stats last week, and it drove me insane.
If you want some more insight, there's a Twitter account named Puntalytics at the Punt Runts. So you can go check them out. But when the Eagles initially cut Siposs and like all the waiver moves happened and stuff, they had Siposs ranked as like the second best punter available.
What?
And then when he came back, they were saying that since he's also the holder for Jake Elliott, you really have to have a sizable improvement for it to be worth it to mess that up. And they said, those guys just aren't available. Like Ty Zettner was their swing. It didn't work out. They expect Siposs to be the guy. And I mean, I think Siposs is not very good, but as much as people want to scapegoat him on the Super Bowl thing, let's not act like him downing that punt at the 5 would have made a difference. The Chiefs were going to drive right down the field anyways. If anything, he saved them some time, or maybe they could kick the ball back. So
that is horrible.
Yeah. I mean, we know how the defense was playing that day, thanks to a coach that is no longer there. We're going to talk about in a minute. So stay tuned for that. But I think they're going to elevate Siposs. I think you can do that 3 times per season. So they'll probably elevate him the first 3 games. And by that point, somebody's probably going to be hurt on IR that you can make him on the roster again. So I think that's probably the plan.
Who do you have slated as the returner? Covey is also on the practice squad. As far as the depth chart is concerned, Alameda Zaccheaus is the primary punt return. Do you feel – I've talked to some people who have seen Zaccheaus catch punts in practice, so I assume he's clean at it. Is Covey another guy you expect to be elevated?
I think
He's not bad. What's with all the – are you pro Covey or no? Because the fan base is really anti-Covey, and he was the 9th highest return. He averaged 9 yards per return last year. Now, a lot of those
he was
is
fine
because
as
of the
returner.
Titans game.
He was
had a good one in the Super Bowl. No,
I don't know anything about him as a receiver because he didn't really play. But
I would expect him
to be elevated too because they only have 4 receivers. But I'm fine with Olamide Zaccheaus returning punts, and on kickoffs you should be fair catching him to take it at the 25 anyways with the new rule. Like last year, teams were sky kicking it to like the 5, so the Eagles had to return it, and they could never
purposely because we were terrible. Okay.
Yeah, this year you can just fair catch that and put it at the 25 anyways. So I expect that to be what we're doing on kickoffs and punts. Sure, put Zaccheaus out there. If Covey's not active, I don't really care too much on that.
If my memory serves correctly, Covey had a pretty good return in the Super Bowl. I think if my memory serves.
Yeah, so I remember that too.
You think? So I try to forget that game, but I do remember that instance. Quickly before
after the Super Bowl, so a little behind the glass. I was planning. I was going to do all 22 for like every play in the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
So like release like quarter 1 and not as in depth as I normally do, but just kind of talk through what happened on each play. So I was going to do like quarter 1, 2, 3, 4, like 4 different videos. After the Super Bowl happened, my followers like, yeah, we're not going to watch that. We're over it. Yeah. So I didn't even do it.
I put out a clip of one of the 2 throws that Dallas Goedert that were very, very pinpoint, like some of the most accurate passes Jalen Hurts has ever made. And, was proud of it, proud of the work, proud of the clip, proud of the breakdown. And yeah, half of those replies were like, I'm not watching this. I was just like, all right, well, fuck myself. All right. So, but before we go to the Gannon thing we have planned here, predictions, the Eagles, I looked it up, are 4-point favorites. It keeps going from 4 to 3.5-point favorites. Shane, your final score prediction, I'll give mine, then we'll go to the Gannon rant we have planned here.
All right, I went 31-21 Eagles. I think it'll be a sloppy game in the beginning. Wouldn't be surprised if you hit the end of the first quarter and oh my gosh, the Patriots are up 10-7 or something like that. But
I will not be doing well if that happens.
I feel confident about the Eagles. Eventually, talent wins out. I think the rust gets knocked off. The play callers settle into a groove, and I'll take the Eagles by 10.
Yeah, I got 31-24. I think it'll be tight to your point through the first half. Wouldn't shock me if they're getting beat up a little bit. We're going to see like one completion on the first drive, maybe for 10, 15 yards. And the fan base is going to be like, nothing changed. Defense going to be, it is what it is. But I think they win. I think they win by at least 7 points in that game. I think they cover the spread and we move on to the home opener on Thursday night in week 2. So speaking of defense and former coordinators and coaches that are no longer here, if you haven't seen yet, a clip has gone around and gone viral of Jonathan Gannon attempting to lead his new team, his Arizona Cardinals, in what I assume is a film session or a walkthrough, whatever it was. Players looked rather uninterested, unenthused by what Jonathan Gannon is saying, and I am disappointed. Well, I mean, I'm not. If I was a Cardinals fan, I'd be disappointed that this is the way our team is being portrayed, even though it's a wide-known fact that they are likely going to tank, even though something just came out recently, right before we got on the show, Shane, that Caleb Williams is going to go back to school if a team he does not want to play for is holding that top pick. So he's already putting it out there. I'm not playing for the Cardinals. That's essentially what that means. But Shane, you have a very entertaining rant here planned as far as Jonathan Gannon goes. So the floor is yours.
Yeah. By the way, it's going to be interesting to see how Nil works out with that, with like top picks. I mean, you had like Eli come out and just be like, I'm not playing for the Chargers.
Not doing this. Don't the Chargers. Hell no.
But that doesn't happen very often because it does kind of look bad, but it's interesting. You'll like Jared Verse did it last year. He probably would have been a top 10 pick and he got paid a bunch of money to come back to Florida State this year to go win a title potentially, as they blasted LSU in week 1.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. I wonder how often you'll see
more of a Brian Kelly
picking their
shit show than anything.
I wonder how much you'll see like Caleb Williams is going to be the number 1 overall pick. And he looks over and he's like, man, the Cardinals, that doesn't look like a good landing spot. I'm just going to come back for another year. Like, I think you could start to see that more. And that's going to be a seismic shift in like how the draft works. Cause that's never been a thing before. You want to go get paid as soon as you can. So that does open up some interesting things, but on to Jonathan Gannon. If you guys haven't seen the clip, I've got it pulled up here. We're just going to walk through just an outline outline of a motivational speech here. So here we go.
Welcome back.
So, I mean, first of all, like,
let's just pause right there.
Let's pause right there. It's always nice to greet people in a pleasant manner, especially if you haven't seen them in a while. So it's nice to see an NFL coach modeling this etiquette for his players. So right off the bat, that kudos to Jonathan Gannon. So let's keep rolling here.
Who drove over here? Quick, let me see your hands. Who took the bus?
So Gannon's trying to figure out the transportation situation, right? Like, if his players are taking public transportation to practice, he doesn't want to be rolling up in his Lexus. That would be a bad look. You want to be kind of on the level of your players. So kudos to Jonathan Gannon for being socially aware here.
He's considerate. Very good.
You have fire in your gut? Did you?
So, I mean, the team clearly ordered in Taco Bell for a late night film session. There's some digestive issues. Like, Jonathan Gannon wants to make sure his players are okay. He's worried about their physical well-being. Did you have the fire in your gut? Did you? He wants to make sure that everybody's good before they get out on the practice field.
Correct.
We're here for a reason. Don't get that twisted. Okay, we're here for a reason to win games.
Now, it's always good to make sure you're on the same page as your professional athletes when it comes to the job description. Like, I've gone into jobs before and I sit down at the beginning and we want to make sure we're on the same page about what's expected. I know as a high school coach, my players often got confused about if we were supposed to win or lose the game. So it's good that he's ironing that out early. So let's keep rolling here.
So if you didn't have that fire in your gut, you better light the fire pretty fast.
Okay, so apparently the fire in the gut thing was not about Taco Bell-induced diarrhea.
Nope.
I'm confused. You can see the confusion from the players now. So let's see if Gannon can get this thing back on track.
Be who you are.
So, I mean, this is good, right? He gets back on track. He's focusing on the mental health of his players. You're free to be you. Be who you are. Be true to yourself. And then we get this zinger to end it.
Just understand, I'm looking for killers.
Okay, I mean, that got dark fast. Like, I'm not sure who Gannon is looking to take out. His players do not seem to be on board. No. And at least this tape can be entered into evidence later if something shady happens. So, yeah, and then we end, we got to put this one back on here, although it wasn't related. So
it is related.
Choo.
I have several takeaways from this video.
All right, lay them on me.
Number one, he lied to his players saying they're here to win games, when very clearly the organization is not planning to win games this year, making it apparent they let go. Who are their starters? Between Josh Dobbs, I mentioned at the beginning of the show, and Clayton Tune. Zach Ertz probably has the least amount of interest to play.
He's questionable, by the way.
Questionable, yes. Questionable probably on many fronts. James Conner is your workhorse. He might lose interest at some point. And Kyler Murray, I'd be shocked if we see him at all this season. My hot take of this season is that Kyler Murray will be a Falcon next year. The Falcons attempted to trade for Lamar Jackson. And if Desmond Ridder shit in the bed, I expect them to make a move for Kyler Murray because Caleb Williams is their priority right now. It is not to win games, so Jonathan Gannon is lying to his players. My other, if you could pull up the video again and pause it on Buda Baker's facial reaction, because I want to hammer home here that Buda Baker is in no way, shape, or form okay with still being in Arizona. At some point throughout the summer, he was told that you are going to be traded. And Buda Baker, with the facial expression that he has, that we're going to see here in a second, is asking at this point in time, why am I not in Philadelphia? Why is this not happening? Kaiser is looking like, how did this guy make it to Philadelphia? And Buda Baker was promised that he was going to be sent to Philadelphia. And he is asking himself, why am I still here? Why is this still happening? I don't even understand. I don't even understand what Jonathan Gannon is even talking right here. This is it. This is the face of a man. This is the face of a man that is questioning his entire life situation right now. He's questioning, why am I in Arizona? What is this guy talking about? Is there any other team that could trade for me right now? Please, God, because this season is about to go south. So I feel for Buda Baker. I'm sure Howie tried. I'm sure he called. I'm sure there was a conversation about an asking price and they couldn't make it happen. So I feel sorry for Buda Baker. And one more thing about the transportation. If you're asking $1 million players, I pray to God he was talking about the team bus and not public transportation. But if you're asking $1 million players, who took the bus? Yeah, you need to take a look around the room, man. I try not to be like Gannon. Well, I'm not even gonna lie. Like the Gannon hate is like it is what it is at this point. But if you're looking for killers, you need to look in the mirror, buddy, because you are not one. Otherwise, we'd have a Super Bowl right now. So Shane and I were talking before the show. We feel like it's a bit unfair if he's one and done this year because the Cardinals clearly have other motives and other priorities this season, and it's not to win games. But if it gets bad, They're like the far and away the betting favorite to have the worst record this season. I don't think they're winning 3 games. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. I don't know what the long-term plan is with Jonathan Gannon there, but early indications are players are not going to respond, and I doubt it goes well for him.
Yeah, I have money.
I don't want anybody to lose their jobs. I'm not like disheartened. Like, I don't want anybody to lose their jobs, but
don't cancel Victor.
Yeah, don't say like, oh, this guy's like trying to get dudes fired. No, that's not what's happening. That's not what's happening.
He's gonna get himself fired. We don't need to do anything.
He's gonna get himself fired. He's already on the road to getting himself fired. Like, did you like the faces alone? Kaiser White is even like, man, I thought I got away from this, and now I'm back doing this again. Kayvon Wallace is over there, by the way. They claimed him. So.
Yeah, I have money on the Cardinals under 2.5. Like, the line was 4.5. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Under 2.5 wins. The line was 4.5, and I took boosted odds to go under 2.5 because I think they're going to be a total train wreck. Yeah, but man, here's the thing. I'm sure you could follow me around with a camera and make a 30-second clip that makes me look like a doofus.
Yeah.
That would be malicious, which is your prerogative. This is the Arizona Cardinals social media team putting this out on an official account. Like, they have unfettered access to Jonathan Gannon. They have a vested interest in making the coach that they cheated to hire look good. And so far we have Viva Mexico, we have Pew Pew, and we have this. Like, it's almost like they're just trying to make him look like a doofus because they realize they made a mistake. And so they're just like softening the blow to fire this guy. So, but yeah, that's my Jonathan Gannon thoughts. And I'm going to now, I was going to say, I'm going to now like cleanse my palate, get his name out of my mouth and never say it again. But to be honest, I can't promise that.
We did have a recent develop. Ari Amirov tweeted it, but I guess he just deleted it. Jonathan Gannon apparently did like an in-depth interview with somebody, and he did say like the Super Bowl loss is my fault. Like, we lost it because of me. And I quoted it and said it's about damn time he admitted it, but then Ari deleted it for whatever reason. So
I think that was an ESPN article, right?
Something like that. It was something. Yeah. It was right before I hopped on here, and I quoted it right before we got on here. But I was like, at least he's taking accountability. Like, I can at least somewhat respect that. But now it's like gone. So maybe he did.
He was 100% being sarcastic when he.
Oh,
said
really?
That.
Oh,
yeah,
this
I'm almost positive.
Well, all right. Well, forget it. This guy, I can't, man. I can't do it. The thing is like, and there are some defenders out there that like all he did was give us like the second most sacks in league history and this and that. But listen, Shane, maybe you and I could have coached the defense to 75. Maybe he could have sent to 75 sacks. When you have that much talent, it's kind of hard to fail unless you're in the Super Bowl against Pat Mahomes on one ankle and get beat by 2 of the same players on opposite sides of the field. So it is what it is. Is it true they got beat on that play in the Jacksonville game? And the Chiefs are just like, well, we're going to do that because I doubt the Eagles fixed it. Like, you probably went back and watched the Jaguars
speed motion. Yeah, that came from Doug.
And the Chiefs are just like, yep, they couldn't beat it then, and they can't beat it now.
Yeah, which, I mean, to be fair, speed motion in the red zone is really hard in that condensed space. But yeah, they definitely pulled that from the Jags film.
You're saying it's on the players. You're saying those plays are on the players, huh?
No, I'm saying you trust me, but I'm saying that's why motion's so killer in the red zone. There's just no room to operate to run the defenders off of each other and stuff. So
Sky Moore is like, pretty elusive, so it's hard to keep up with those guys, man. Kelsey questionable. He just had an injury last year, so it's going to be interesting. Football is back tomorrow. Eagles football is back on Sunday. It feels good to be back. Feels good to get up here and preview the Eagles matchup with the Patriots. We all expect a 1-0 start to the season, and they better start out quick because that death march in November, December is not going to be a fun time. So we'll hope that the Eagles get off to a quick start here. Thank you guys for checking out the EPA podcast brought to you by Bleeding Green Nation. I'm one of your hosts, Victor Williams. Be sure to follow me on all social media platforms at the Philly Pod. Be sure to follow the podcast over there as well. Firing that back up. Be sure to go follow Shane at Shane Haff NFL. What do you have in the pipeline, Shane, as far as YouTube and the 16 other pods you do? What's going on with you right now?
Yeah, I've got graphics scheduled to come out on Twitter all throughout the week, breaking down different aspects of the game. Those will be things that I put out weekly. I'll do weekly all 22 content on Twitter and on my YouTube as well. I'm on a lot of podcasts, too many. Birds of the Round Table is a podcast you can check out. It's a round table with some Philly sports, different Philly sports hosts that we talk every Tuesday night about the Eagles. Obviously have the BGN draft show in the BGN feed here. I'll be on the post-game show. I'll be on halftime shows for Edge of Philly Sports. I've got Chalk Talk that airs every Tuesday night, recapping the NFL as a whole. So if you want to, you're watching the Eagles games, but you want to know what's going on in the rest of the league. That's not a big issue since the Eagles never play at 1:00 this year, but you can go check that out in an hour and 15. We'll go through each game. Last night we did our last offseason episode before we get into reviews. We drafted NFL award winners, coach of the year, first coach fired, Super Bowl winners, all that stuff. You can go check that as well on YouTube or wherever you stream your podcasts.
Yeah, we should follow him up. Busy man. The Eagles season's back in full swing, which means content galore. You're not going to be hurting to find different ways to digest what it is the Eagles are doing this season. I'll be on the post-game Sunday. You're there, Shane? Post-game on Sunday?
Yes, I'll be there.
I'll be there too. So be sure to check us out after that. Those are always fun to do, and we'll be back next week recapping, hopefully, a victory for the Eagles and Patriots matchup. Until next time, guys, thank you guys for checking it out. We'll catch you next week. Peace out from the EPA Podcast.
Go Birds.